Alright guys, I cannot believe that this is happening, what is happening in the US right now. Yeah, they really did it. The Ukrainians bankrupted the United States. Anyways, I'll make a video about this later on. I just wanted to talk about again this November and their calendar, their Wiccan calendar, the witchcraft and warlock calendar, and each time it's November they seem to organize something. Okay, New York Post article, this was published on May 7th, 2023. Robert Kennedy Jr. blames CIA for JFK assassination, fueling controversial claim. Democratic White House contender Robert Kennedy Jr. blames the CIA for the November 22nd, 1963 assassination of his uncle, President John F. Kennedy, proclaiming it beyond a reasonable doubt. Kennedy made the bombshell accusation about a murder that sparked many conspiracy theories during an interview Sunday with John Katsimatidis on WABC 770 AM's Cats Roundtable. So, I found those numerology sources, and I will use this case as an example of all the details of numerology, which is quite an old science. Okay, polygonal numbers, and they have something to do with geometrical figures, and they have something to do with the positions of celestial bodies in the sky. Like, for example, Venus, the planet, the star that means love, in opposition to Mars, the planet that means war, and also in like 90 degrees position of Saturn, which means karma, good or bad one. And that's how we get a triangle. And the worst case scenario, under a town which has longitude and latitude coordinates, which are also in numbers, that means the square. The square is the worst possible combination that can happen. Anyways, the numbers are the language of angels and spirit realm. Also the fallen ones. Okay, this is in Chinese numerology. Number 4 means death. 22, master number 22, the master builder. So this has something to do with masonry as well. So this is an example of a chart. There is a software one can download that shows the position of a planet, of planets, the stars, celestial bodies, according to the date and the location and the person. Okay, so this day, JFK's assassination, November 22nd. November is 11th month, so this is like 11/22. 22 is 2 times 11. 1963, that's how you calculate the year. So you have 1 plus 9, this is 10. Then 6 plus 3, this is 9. So this is 19. The number 19 is the year number. The Dallas, Texas, it occurred at 12:30 p.m. Dallas, Texas. This is 32 northern north, 47, 96 west, 48. This is time zone 6 hours west. Tropical Placidus. So this is what they look like. So all these tokens are the zodiacs, the stars, and so on that you can recognize here. Like the arrow means Sagittarius, the circle with a dot inside means Sun, and how many degrees they were. So this is copyright Michael R. Svelia. Part 1, the Kennedy assassination chart, is the transit chart from November 22nd, Dallas, Texas. I do not summarily dismiss the Warren Commission as incorrect in the assessment of what happened on November 22nd, 1963. However, convincing evidence gathered via books and the internet, as well as my perception and interpretation of the assassination chart, heavily suggests that many people were involved in the sophisticated plan to kill the president. My analysis hypothesizes that many people were involved in the killing. I am open to other evidence and interpretations supporting the Warren Commission. Introduction. The Kennedy assassination chart is the most compelling chart I have seen thus far in my studies of astrologers. Dozens, likely hundreds of insights could be drawn from the positions of the planets in the heavens at the moment of the assassination. Assuming an assassination time of 12:30 p.m. and 1 plus 2 is 3, it's like 33, another Master Mason number. I will unravel my perception of the chart as I see. Although Kennedy was not automatically doomed to die that day via the heavens, the conditions were extremely ripe for the cabal of those who planned the kill and executed it to be successful. The ascendant and the angles. The ascendant is in about 90 Aquarius, therefore the chart is ruled by Uranus. Aquarius is a zodiac sign that means a humanitarian person, healer. Therefore, the chart is ruled by Uranus. Uranus means unexpected shocks and surprises. The irony of ascendant, which is rather fitting at first glance because it exemplifies the negative shock of the event, is that Kennedy was probably the most Aquarian president since Lincoln, also assassinated, or even the founding fathers. Here he, or the assassination itself, seems to be represented in two ways: a very personal first house pointing to a shock and disruption to the Aquarian President Kennedy, and secondly the negative side of Aquarius personified by the group who killed him, opposite the Leo descendant. So Leo is the sign of the UK. The closest approximation to kinship Leo that we have in the US is the presidency. Obviously, if Kennedy is represented as the Aquarius ascendant, the descendant in Leo represents the old interests who wanted to keep the status quo by killing him. Amazingly, the other in the chart can also be shown as Kennedy, or the Kennedys if you prefer. Briefly, the midheaven and the IC by themselves are not overly critical to the chart interpretation. In my opinion, although Kennedy's natal sun is conjunct with about 4 degrees of the IC in the assassination chart in its 4th house. Then again, the midheaven is of utmost importance when taken in the context of entire chart covered under the sun section. The sun. What led to my astrological study of the Kennedy assassination chart is the luminaries. Incredibly, the sun is in the anaretic degree of Scorpio, and the disk is as close to the Scorpio-Sagittarius cusp as it can be without part of it actually being in Sagittarius, and therefore, in my opinion, not on the cusp. This is Scorpio's critical degree, and the sun displays its most extreme attribute and stands out in the chart. So, Scorpio is a tarot card. In the Scorpio itself, the symbol means death, and for example, the Scorpio zodiac sign in the tarot card deck is death. And Scorpio also means still waters run deep. Scorpio means poisoning, and it will happen the same way in later this year, and there will be this the end of the Scorpio's tail seems to have this poison in it, and this is how this constellation looks like. And the end of the tail is called Algol star, which means death and destruction, like a Medusa in ancient Greek mythology, where Hercules, I think, he cut off the head of the Medusa Gorgon. The Scorpio sun is also unexpected in the chart, taking on a further dominant position in the chart. The overshadowing influence of the sun in Scorpio possibly might be mitigated by a weak conjunction with Mercury and conjunction with Vesta and Ceres. The secretive destructive force of the Scorpio sun is conjunct in the midheaven at about 4 Sagittarius, which shows a negative influence impending on the public life 10th house in the chart, which can be interpreted as the president without much of a strange, especially the candidate president of high deal Sagittarius. The Scorpio sun disposits into Pluto, indicating an underworld or secretive influence in the assassination events. Also very noteworthy is the fixed stars connection. The Scorpio sun bears a very strong opposition to 29 Taurus, containing the Pleiades cluster. The Pleiades degree is referred to by Celeste Teal as the weeping degree, and according to her associated with violent death. The Scorpio sun is also in a position in the 1963 about a 4-degree orb to the malevolent fixed star Caput Algol, referred to as a demon star and associated with murder. He is also called the source. The core of the transit chart is a destructive Scorpio sun. The moon, the Aquarius moon, is conjunct Saturn and in the 12th house. It deposits to Uranus and very clearly represents the symbolic emotional shock of the event to the entire world, as well as being broadcast to the world after the event and even being recorded on film by ordinary citizens, no less. The moon and retrograde Jupiter are part of a strong yacht pointing to the chart's ruler Uranus. So Uranus is a planet that, or a star or celestial body that means unexpected, shocking things to happen, and also nuclear weapons and so on, because there was a Caribbean missile crisis which almost led to exchange of nuclear weapons blow. The moon in the 12th, especially conjunct to the ascendant, is a strong indication of an ending. The luminaries in the chart add a great deal of tension to the chart, and the moon also points to an underworld connection with the 12th house in opposition to the descendant. The underworld connection is more of an 8th house phenomenon, although it also fits to the 12th, and is especially apropos considering how much grief the events caused to Americans. The moon also forms the quincunx aspect to Pluto. In the 1960s, the moon was very strongly conjunct with the fixed star Albali, according to George Noonan, a star of mixed fortunes, sometimes associated with danger and death. The mixed fortune aspect, however, is appropriate and expected for the wild card ruler of Aquarius, which promises shocks and surprises, good or bad. The moon is the focal point of a slanted kite pattern in the chart, which also adds its importance to the chart. Moon in Aquarius is humanitarian, but also takes on a cooler side due to its air quality. So the moon working through the darkest side of Aquarius symbolizes a group most likely behind a cold-blooded murder. The subconscious force behind this transit chart is the shocking Aquarius moon. Mercury in its detriment in Sagittarius and strongly squares its higher octave Uranus. Most overtly, it seems to represent a breakdown in the thought and communication, whether by accident or by plan, in people assigned to protect the president. It also aspects the mid-heaven within a reasonable orb. Because Mercury is a neutral planet and tends to take on the characteristic of the nearest planet, it has an intense Scorpio secondary characteristic, so to speak, due to its loose conjunction in the Sun. It's also very close to Black Lily. Depths of Mercury suggest efficient thought and communication that they overshadowed Sun and thought Venus. Three very personal planets, namely Mercury, Venus, and Mars, were in Sagittarius that day. The only retrograde planet in the chart is Jupiter. So Jupiter is a planet of success. So I won't read it all. There's also Neptune, Pluto, Charon, the nodes, and so on and so forth. It's very long. It's triplewaters.astrology.com, Kennedy assassination. So I wanted to say that whoever organized all this was into a cult, which is most likely Secret Service, and whoever organized that murder obviously had some control over planning of United States President's schedule, formation, and could decide and organize where and when he will go. So just the same way as in case with Diana's death, we will see a lot of movies that were made about this, so that later in time when we study documents, it will just all get mixed up in our head, what was really in the photos, which really took place, and what we saw in the movies, because we tend to forget and mix things up. Police holding prime suspect in Kennedy assassination, Dallas, UPI. Police today said Lee H. Oswald, identified as chairman of a Fair Play for Cuba committee, was the prime suspect in the assassination of President Kennedy. Police said Oswald, 24, was accused in the slaying of a Dallas policeman shortly after the shooting of the president. Police Captain Pat Ganaway said the suspect was an employee in the building where a rifle was found. Yeah, the whole shooting thing was like a miracle bullet. Like he had a rifle that he had to reload 3 times in 5 seconds and make all these rounds. And then one of the bullets had to also damage the Texas governor or senator Connolly, make these spinning rounds in his body and damage his hip and the neck. Ganaway said the suspect had visited Russia and was married to a Russian. You see, the most horrible stuff that should be noted here is visiting Russia and having a Russian wife. Did you all understand that the connotations of having a Russian wife, how evil that is. This was not immediately confirmed. The suspect was the man cornered and seized in a movie theater in the Oak Cliff section. Soon after the assassination, he had killed a police officer before he was subdued. So, Oak, this magic tree oak that druids worship, and those Vikings. Anyways, what you got from this is, of course, Russian wife. Russian wife bad, and you should all consider Kate Middleton. Ed Kennedy. President Kennedy's body will lie in state at the White House tomorrow, House Speaker McCormack announced. McCormack said he thinks the body will be taken to the Capitol Sunday to remain in the Great Rotunda until about noon Monday. Further plans are indefinite, but it is understood the actual funeral services will be held in Boston. Pentagon officials expect the funeral to be a full-dress state ceremony, and preparations are going ahead on that assumption. The last paragraph was probably direct instruction to their Pentagon employee, John Fetterman, who is a Frankenstein type of, who knows how many years he lived. So there were many so-called books and whatnot, and conspiracies about that. But for me, I don't see how this thing cannot be clear. Since this, what used to be called Prince Charles, and then what was called Carl after the coronation on the eclipse day, he was filmed traveling somewhere and meeting with a crowd of selected people. What was filmed there by innocent bystander was that his bodyguards had fake hands. So they had some kind of a prosthetic hands, while their hands were inside their jacket with holding a gun. So after he was filmed with all these fake hands, bodyguards, it's obvious that how Kennedy was killed, by whom he was killed, and obviously there were nobody that was a sniper who was lying in the roof somewhere and shit like that. Obviously there was nothing like that. And again, you will see, like I said before, this case, this Hamas attack in Israel case, Diana Spencer case with quote-unquote paparazzi chasing them, was just a typical, very typical motorcycle club shit. I mean, the things that are in common are the motorcyclists. See? And all these fuckers are clones anyways. So again, I wanted to show you this, the Wheel of the Year. Modern pagans, British neo-pagans. Wiccan Redder. Greater pantheistic divinity, which is regarded as an impersonal force or process rather than a personal deity. Ritual practices. Atama, ritual knife or dagger used in Wiccan practices. Many rituals with Wicca are used when celebrating the Sabbath. So you have to look at all these ugly freaks and see them for what they are. Demon clones. Like you see all these clones around the Bahamas. How come the president of Indonesia looks just like Obama? I'll tell you how. He's the same clone from some white dude which was carried by Indonesian surrogate. Okay? How come this Rick Carlisle looks like Jim Carrey? It's the same material, just different surrogate. You see all this starring in the, all these Scientologists or Mormons starring in these fake events. Alberto Wildrose leader just happens to look like his wife. And his wife looks like his sister. I mean Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes. So these are evil demon clones. Like, how come Kubrick looks like Zelensky so much? And why do they look so weird? You cannot tell me that this is not Obama's son. And they all have these weird ears because they were made in the lab with some animal material brought when they were just some cells big. So if you pay attention, these are like a gay couple that came to Ukraine to buy a baby. Not only they are a gay couple, they are also siblings. Okay, and this is Ukraine, the surrogacy conveyor of the world. And this is Russian former president and opposition leader. So when you look at this Jolie couple, you need to understand that in spite of all these adopted kids being ethnically having this ethnic appearance, these kids are all their kids. Some of them were carried by different surrogates. One surrogate was Vietnamese, the other was Cambodian, the other was Ethiopian. But these are definitely made from her eggs. Look at these persons, two kids having the same eyebrow line, shapes of eyes, nose, and the symmetry, and the two rabbit teeth and the lips are the same, and the cheeks are the same. So these are all their kids, and they've been doing this for many, many years. They just all this inbreeding and chimerism and mixing with animal material like with homunculus, it makes you horribly ugly, I suppose.